Surely you've heard that the pyramids of Giza are a portal constructed by aliens, right? Oh, you haven't? Well, unfortunately, I didn't just make that up, and that is a real topic covered by Ancient Aliens.
Everything that we discover about the Great Pyramid has to be related to its original function as a portal to other star systems or other dimensions.
This show, quite frankly, needs no introduction. It's the show your conspiracy theory loving uncle watches and believes every stupid thing they say because it makes him feel smart. And for that very reason, it's one of the most popular, long-running shows on the History Channel, despite spewing inaccuracies basically every time they open their mouth. And today, we get to make fun of them. So to start things off, this first episode I came across is really what gave me the inspiration to make this video, because even though I was only halfway paying attention to it, I was still poking holes through pretty much every point they made, because some of the stuff they say is just so unbelievable you can't help but to look it up, and it didn't turn out very well for them, to be honest. And as much as I hate to be all, actually, if you're not heavily intoxicated in some way, I don't know how anyone could make it through an episode of this show. It's almost unwatchable. So we're going to watch some. Also, to preface, if you haven't watched this show before, pretty much everybody on here takes forever to spit anything out. So I had to trim some of these clips down to remove the 10 seconds of silence in between each sentence. So if it looks like I'm removing context or putting words in their mouth with editing, I promise I'm not. They may just need a new editor, or maybe not, because oh my god, they post 7 times a day. How do you even make that much content? But here we go.
People are called to Mount Shasta and they don't know why.
Mount Shasta is also apparently on a major ley line. There are telluric current of energy going from different grid spots and power spots.
All right, so we're only 15 seconds into this video, and they have already delivered misinformation so fundamental to the entire point of this video that it renders the whole rest of it useless. But you can't tell that yet, and you probably wouldn't just watching this one time through. So hang on a minute. So how did I find this out? First off, I had to look up what ley lines were because that's fake. But not only in other maps, but also the map they show, they make it seem, and some of them even say, that Mount Shasta is down here in Mexico. It's not. It's in Northern California. And I know that seems super insignificant, but bear with me.
It seems that Mount Shasta is on some energy line that's perhaps connected even to Cuzco and Lake Titicaca, the Great Pyramids, power spots, and sacred places.
Yeah, it's important you bring up the Great Pyramid because it reminds me of Mount Shasta.
Really? Okay.
First of all, it's a volcano, and the word pyramid means fire in the middle.
All right, so when I went to fact check this, it was a little hard to find what he was talking about because he didn't mention which language it translates from. So I thought maybe he's talking about ancient Egyptian, right? That would make sense. Well, no, that's not right. Then I thought maybe he just means English. I don't know. So I looked at the definitions and none of them are what he said. So maybe he's talking about the word origin. It comes from Latin, and then Latin gets that from Greek. Oh, what's that? That's a common misconception. It actually means a cake made of wheat flour and honey. Figured. But the weird part about this is the Greeks didn't even build the pyramids. They came well after the pyramids were built. So even if he was right, that wouldn't even prove anything.
And underneath the Great Pyramid are tunnels. Same thing here at Shasta. And it makes me think, well, maybe Shasta could have been like the natural origin of the idea of the pyramid as like a power center.
But the pyramid is an artificial construction. A lava tube is not artificial.
Exactly.
That's
what
nature.
I'm saying is that perhaps the pyramid is kind of like a technological version of a naturally occurring power center like a volcano.
So we're saying that the Egyptians took inspiration from Mount Shasta, even though it's all the way in California? But you know what? I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe they're talking about just any mountain in general. But then I remembered the whole ley lines thing, and that's the reason they use Mount Shasta as an example, which is why it's so ironic that it's not even on one. All this so far, and we are only 2 minutes into this video. Also, I hate how they make the fact that it's a pyramid seem absolutely mythical, like that shape is just out of this world that they would even think to make it a triangle. But what else did they expect them to build? A skyscraper? Did they want them to build a rectangle? Wait a minute, what am I talking about? Skyscrapers aren't even rectangles. Why would they build any other shape? Not only is it, as this comment puts it, the easiest shape to stack rocks in, it's also the most stable shape because the center of gravity is pretty much on the ground. Not only that, but they also probably used mountains, something pre-existing, as a reference. And I understand the point they're trying to make is that the ancient Egyptians are really advanced in science for their time, and honestly, I agree. It's just about the worst example I could possibly think of. It's like marveling at the fact that they put legs on the bottom of a chair. There's no way they learned that themselves. It must have been the aliens. They came through the portal. In the mountain. Like, it doesn't take a genius to figure any of this out. In fact, I would argue the opposite. All of this is pretty much common sense. But this sound effect goes hard, so you know they're onto something. This next part of the video is the epitome of why I think the History Channel shows are stupid, especially this one, because they get a interesting, usually real fact, and they just go absolutely off the rails with it.
In the subterranean chamber, there is some evidence that shows that there had been water present in it. There's water erosion on the floor, and then there's also cavitation damage on the ceiling right above the pit, and that had to have been from a compression wave.
Cadman concluded that the Great Pyramid was a gigantic hydraulic pump that drew water from the nearby Nile River.
All right. So what this discovery really means, if it's true, is that the ancient Egyptians had some sort of understanding of fluid dynamics, which is pretty cool on its own. But in typical Ancient Aliens fashion, they jump right ahead and just say,
to generate power.
Wait a minute, you can't just say that. You have to tell me how first. They haven't even proved that the ancient Egyptians even know what electricity is.
But if the Great Pyramid functioned as a power plant, what purpose might it have served?
How on earth can you speculate about the purpose something served before you can even provide me any amount of evidence that it performed the function that you think it did? You haven't even proved to me that it does that. And the reason they do this is because this show operates under the assumption that you require little to no convincing, aka the History Channel thinks you're stupid. Wait a minute. That's the title of the video. And in the very next clip, they pull out the classic phrase that proves exactly what I just said.
Ancient astronaut theorists suggest clues can be found in sacred Egyptian writings.
I think this comment says it best. Ancient astronaut theorists say yes. Have they ever said no?
The pyramid text described the ancient Egyptian gods as extraterrestrials coming and going from two places, Sirius and Orion.
All right, at this point, we are drowning in baseless conspiracies, so let's summarize their evidence before we get into their conclusion here. First, the pyramids are a powerhouse, which they didn't prove. Second, the hieroglyphics portray the pyramids being used as a form of transport by the gods, which probably means the pharaohs, which, by the way, the whole ascension device thing is probably just referring to the afterlife, but disregard that. That must mean
The pyramid itself, according to the ancient Egyptians, functioned as an ascension device. So everything that we discover about the Great Pyramid has to be related to its original function as a portal to other star systems or other dimensions.
Is it possible that the Great Pyramid was designed by otherworldly visitors to function as some kind of portal?
there you go. It's a portal. But wait, that must mean
Underground flowing water can carry a charge, build up charge in certain areas that can then migrate to the surface along faults and fissures, and in some cases then escape as basically balls of charge.
Of course, guys, it's the balls of charge, because energy is stored in the balls, which are inside the water. Forget about the fact that water itself isn't a conductor, it's actually the minerals it contains, like salt, and the Nile River is fresh water. That's not important. So the water tunnels are like giant phone chargers for the portal that we've yet to prove exists.
Might the unique geology of Mount Shasta make it the perfect location for alien beings to create a portal to other parts of the universe, or even other dimensions?
There you go, guys. We solved it. And I understand the point of this show is just to speculate, but the reason it works is if you take the unknown and just cherry pick some information that fits your preconceived agenda, you can make anything not make sense. And believe me, there is a perfect example of that in this next episode, which, much to my displeasure, has 2.3 million views.
The Great Pyramid is aligned to within 3/60th of a degree of north.
You do know that Philadelphia and New York are within 3/4 of a degree of one another, right? So that's not really that accurate. Coordinate degrees are really big. So settle down, guys. We wouldn't want to lie again. right?
A more accurate alignment than any other structure on Earth.
Oh, okay. I'm not even going to fact check that. That's how confident I am that that's wrong.
When you look at the Great Pyramid's alignment, it's aligned very, very close to true north.
How is the fact that they understood their cardinal directions proof that they interacted with aliens? All they would need to make a compass is a magnet. Hang on a minute. While it is totally possible that they did have magnets, I don't believe any were ever found, as far as I can tell. But fortunately, in a couple of minutes, I come to a realization that totally solves the whole cardinal direction thing, and you'll see that discovery indicated by this guy. I made it myself.
If you pass a great circle from the Great Pyramid through its cardinal and its ordinal directions, what you find is that these circles will pass through more landmass of the Earth than any other location on the Earth. You find that the Great Pyramid is essentially located at the center of the world's landmass.
All right, I don't really know what significance that's supposed to hold, and honestly, I don't think he does either, because that's the end of his statement, but what the fuck does this mean?
The Great Pyramid is not only perfectly aligned to the cardinal points, its placement on the Earth is seemingly intentional as well.
The Great Pyramid was built with a level of technological sophistication far in excess of anything that we have today. They don't use the inch as we normally have it in the English system, it's the cubit.
Is that if you actually take the length of the Great Pyramid at its mean socket level, which is the corners of the actual building, it translates into 365.24 pyramid cubits, which just happens to be the Earth a year right down to a quarter day.
Okay, that's pretty cool, until you realize that the Egyptians also created the solar calendar. So the same group of people invented both systems of measurement. So of course they'll coincide with one another. That's not conspiratorial.
The measurements of the length and width of the perimeter of the Great Pyramid correspond to an exact fraction of both the latitude and longitude measurements at the equator.
I have watched this about a dozen times. Either I'm an idiot and I have no idea what they're talking about, or they're just lying. Because here's the latitude-longitude lines, and it's not even close on any of the three pyramids. Also, they didn't explicitly say this, but they make it look like it's on the equator in this animation. It's not. It's like 1,000 miles away. And once again, even if it was true, they likely align the pyramids laterally based on the sun. It rises in the east and sets in the west. That's what our cardinal directions are based off of. Wait a minute, that means they wouldn't even need a magnet to find true north. All they would need to know... Oh my god. Also, did you catch this? Less than 15 seconds ago, they were going on about how accurate cubits are, but now they're using imperial measurements.
Recently, using satellite technology, researchers have realized yet another advanced formula encoded in the design.
If you take the location of the Great Pyramid as a coordinate, this number sequence of this coordinate matches exactly the speed of light traveling through space, measured in meters per second. This is amazing stuff.
Also, I didn't realize this initially, but the Egyptians not only didn't use meters, they also didn't use seconds. And this system of measurement is completely arbitrary. It doesn't really mean anything. So is it a coincidence? Absolutely. But even then, oh my god, they were wrong again.
When you consider the vast amount of information about the Earth that's encoded into the Great Pyramid, you can't just dismiss all of this as pure coincidence.
Well, when you get this much information wrong, I don't have to dismiss it as a coincidence.
If the sole function of tombs was to house the dead, then why are virtually all of these connected to notions of spiritual energy, images of astronomy, and a strong belief in the existence of other, arguably more spiritual worlds?
What? They have to be playing stupid at this point. Why would a graveyard be linked to the concept of spirits? I think you guys are smart enough to figure that out. I'm going to leave that with you. So I'm going to skip the rest of this part because it's unbelievably boring, and I'm just going to turn it up to 11, so here we go.
One of the most famous stories that go hand in hand with Osiris was that he was dismembered by his jealous brother Seth.
But Isis, the loyal wife, searched far and wide.
Isis succeeded in resurrecting him. Now, when I hear a story like that, I have to ask the question, is it possible that Osiris was not some type of biological entity, but perhaps he was some type of a machine or a robot.
What? What?
There is no universe in which they aren't taking the piss. Right? Like, this feels satirical. It feels like one of those shit posts from those Instagram accounts making fun of Sigma culture.
If you don't want to grow your dick, you don't want to grow your clientele. You don't want to increase your salary. You don't have any drive. Where are your goals, man? Why the fuck would I hire somebody who doesn't want a big dick?
And if you still like this show, that's totally your prerogative. But I don't get it. Because as I've shown, they intentionally leave out important information and give a platform to people with no valid credentials apart from internet access just to serve you misleading conclusions they know are wrong just to make their show more entertaining. And these 2 episodes are not an exception. That's the rule. And I get it. It's fun to speculate, but you can't just cherry pick information. Because once you start withholding info from your audience, or in some cases straight up lying to them, that's probably where you should draw the line. Because now it's not just fun speculation based on real facts, it's just misinformation. And it shows a lack of respect for your viewers' intelligence. Not to mention, when you tune into the History Channel, you would expect some level of journalistic integrity, which this show has none of. And the comments seem to agree because they're mostly flaming the shit out of this show. Ancient alien astronaut theorists say yes, partially bricked up. History should rename itself to science fiction. Yep, your history. Optimus Prime inside the mountain eating Energon Cube while watching TV. What? I'm drunk as fuck right now. When I hear a story like that, I have to ask the question, was it possible that Osiris was a robot? That is, apart from the ones that are totally buying into it. Bigger people, aliens take over. My brain, Lemmafowl pinecone. I have to watch this because I was absent a day, so my teacher is making me watch this. Alright. Those architects had been going on for millions of years when the continents were together or even closer to each other. There were even signs that a battle had occurred with some kind of death ray melting parts of pyramid in Egypt and South American pyramids. What? I think he's... You know what? No, I don't... Actually, I have no idea what he's talking about. I think it was for free electricity, but who knows? On a recent trip to Las Vegas, I came across a huge pyramid. It was all black. It was huge. You mean this one? Yeah, that's a hotel. Follow power line? Now, to be honest, I love conspiracy theories. I think they're a lot of fun because I love hyperfixating on obscure topics. That's kind of my thing. So don't be surprised if I drop a deep dive video on like the psychology of flat earthers or the ice wall or something fun like that. That's probably going to happen, which is why I think it's very unfortunate that shows like this give conspiracy theories such a bad name, especially when you consider that when they are based in fact, a lot of the time they come true because, as it turns out, every nut job from the 80s was just right. And I don't think you could blame people for not believing it. Like, come on, CIA mind control experiments, what are you talking about? Oh wait, it's real. So my main question to the History Channel, and the whole point of this video, is basically, how little of a shit do you have to give to not even get your facts straight in your own fictitious universe? How the fuck do you make up the rules and still get the wrong answer, and then put it on TV? For 20 seasons. Because if I can prove you wrong with a Google search, you might want to fact check yourself a little better. But that's about all I got for you. So if you enjoyed, maybe like and subscribe. I think that would be pretty cool. Plus, you'll get to see my cool upcoming projects and you won't want to miss them. But as always, you simply watching means the world. See ya.